welcome to another video. My name is Ilse and today I bring you my October wrap-up. This month I read 10 books and I am excited that I read so many because last month I think I read like 6 or 7 and to me that's like not a lot, and I'm excited because I actually read a lot this month. So yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and start with what I read, and maybe at the end I'll tell you about the books that I'm planning to read this month. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and start. The first book that I read this last month was Panic by Lauren Oliver, and this book is standalone, and this is my first book by Lauren Oliver to be exact, and I really didn't like it at all. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I couldn't relate to anything. I'm not even gonna bash on the book. I just didn't really like it. And I kind of had a problem with the writing. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna read anything by Lauren Oliver in the future or near the future. So yeah, if you've read this book, tell me what you thought about it. I'm just... The next book that I read, An Abundance of Catherines by John Green. I really like this book actually, and this is like the least favorite book by John Green that most people don't like, I guess. And this book is about a guy named Colin whose every girlfriend or ex-girlfriend he has had has been a Catherine. And he develops a theorem where about the dumpy and the dumpied, whatever, I cannot say that, I know. And I really enjoyed this book. I was laughing so much at this book, especially at Colin and his best friend. And I am in love with it. And if you have not read this, or if you don't plan on reading it, I think you should give it a try. I really enjoyed it. So I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. But only because there was some stuff that I was kind of like, I don't know, that I really didn't like. But other than that, I think this book was fairly good. The next book that I read is Where She Went by Gail Forman. This is the second book in her If I Stay companion novel thing, yeah. And I actually enjoyed this more than If I Stay. The writing is still beautiful. The characters are still beautiful. It's kind of like, this book is from Adam's perspective, and I really enjoyed it. I think I enjoyed it more. I still gave it a 4 out of 5 on Goodreads, but I overall really enjoyed it, and it gave me feels more than If I Stay, I guess you could say. So go pick it up if you have not read this, because it's a good conclusion, I guess you could say. The next book that I read is Stolen by Lucy Christopher, and this is a standalone, and I really enjoyed this book. This book is a letter to a raptor, because this is about a girl who has kidnapped, and it was really creepy. And I don't know, at some point you were rooting for the guy that kidnapped her, and it's just really weird. But I really enjoyed this. The writing is beautifully done, and I think you should give it a go. I was recommended this book by Grace. I'll leave her channel down below, and I'm really happy that I bought this because it's really good. I think I gave this a 5 out of 5 in Goodreads, so pick it up. The other book that I read this month is The Infinite Sea by Reed Yancey, and this is the second book in the Fifth Wave trilogy. I guess it's a trilogy. Yes, it's a trilogy. I'm not gonna tell you a lot about it. I'm just gonna tell you that I actually really enjoyed this book. I've heard a lot of people say that they were disappointed at this book, but I actually enjoyed it. Maybe I enjoyed it more because I think I wasn't in the hype about it that much, because I was still skeptical about the Fifth Wave, because if you have seen my previous wrap up, I still didn't know about how I feel about the Fifth Wave. But reading this, I actually really made me excited to read the third book, and I enjoyed it a lot more. I understand the world a lot more, and it was just funny. Oh my god, it was just so funny. Oh my god, there was some funny parts that I just couldn't stop laughing, and I enjoyed it overall. And I'm really excited for the third one. So if you have not read The Fifth Wave, pick it up, and if you've read that, then I suggest you pick The Infinite Sea next. The next book that I read in the month of October, well, it's not in order, but the next book is The Sea of Tranquility by Katja Millet. I am in love with this book. I think I was raving about it on my book haul when I hauled this, and I am in love with this book. I cannot even express in words how much I love this book. I gave this a 5 out of 5 on Goodreads, and I am excited, excited, excited. This book is about two people, a girl and a guy, who both have suffered a huge loss in their lives. And each loss is a different kind of loss. Like some people have lost, like, well, the guy or one of them, because I don't want to spoil anything, if you were planning to pick it up, if you are not convinced to pick it up, I'm telling you, go pick it up, you won't regret it. But one of them loses like half or most of his family members, and the other person loses something that she was working so hard for all of his life, and it's just so heartbreaking when it all comes down to them together. And then the ending, people, that's what really gets me all the time, the ending. So many feels. If you are skeptical about picking this up, or please pick it up. The next 3 books that I'm going to show you are actually ebooks, so I don't have them in physical copy, but I'll show you a picture of the cover right here by my side or in my face. So I read Step Brother Dearest by Penelope Ward. I was recommended to read this. I think it was one of the Goodreads recommendations because I've read something that it's kind of the same, and it's a new adult book, and it's basically about a girl and a guy who are stepbrothers, obviously, or step siblings, I guess you could say, and they kind of fall in love with each other, but then something happens that the guy has to leave, and well, years later they encountered, or something happened and they have to meet again, and it's just a bunch of feelings popping up again from those years ago. This book, I enjoyed it. I wasn't in love with it. I didn't hate it. It was kind of just like a solid 3 out of 5 stars for me. I don't know what the hype about it is, but I really enjoyed it overall. I have nothing bad to say about it. I think there were just a few stuff that I wish it would have happened. Like in my mind, I was kind of picturing like where the story was gonna go, and I wish there was more of it, but there really wasn't. So, but it's a good book nonetheless. The next book that I read is actually a book that I've been waiting since May or March, I don't know. But it's called Stone Cold Touch by Jennifer L. Armentrout, and I am in love with Jennifer L. Armentrout, if you have not noticed in my videos of what I've read. And this book is the second book in the Dark Element series, and it's a paranormal young adult book, and I am in love with the series. I cannot tell you a lot about it. I'm just gonna tell you that it was so refreshing because I don't know. There were a lot of feels, and there were a lot of laughs, and well, not crying. I almost cried, but I didn't cry. But they were so good. I really enjoyed it. And if you have not picked any book by Jennifer L. Armentrout, I suggest you pick one up. I started with the Lux series, and right after that, I started with this, and then I went to her new adult books, and I give this a 5 out of 5 on Goodreads. I'm excited. I'm actually scared for the 3rd book, but you should just go ahead and read it. The next book that I read is called Exquisite by Elle Frank, and I gave this a 3 out of 5 on Goodreads. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. It was just kind of, I don't know, again, it's one of those books that you kind of make the story in your mind where it might go, and it was just not going there, and it just went a total different direction, and you're just kind of like, okay then. And this story is about a girl who suffers a huge loss, and she kind of has to deal with it throughout the years, and she has this guilt like built up in herself, and she meets this guy who kind of like breaks down all her walls, but then he has all of these other walls that, you know, it's a really good story. I just feel like it could have gone somewhere more, but it didn't. So that was a little bit disappointing. But other than that, I think it was a solid, good read. Like, you know, kind of like, after all the emotions that I went with other books. The last book that I read in October is called Sins and Needle by Karina Hale. This is a trilogy, a new adult trilogy, and I wanted to read this because Hannah from Bookworms Talk was raving about it, and I was really excited, and I wasn't disappointed, but I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. And I mean, I like the characters, I like the story. Again, it's one of those books that you make up the story in your mind where it might lead, and it was a good cliffhanger though, so I'm really gonna continue the series. I've heard that it gets better, so I'm really excited for that. So those are all the books that I read this month, well, last month in October, and I'm happy with it. And now I'm gonna tell you all the books, or some of the books that I want to dig in November. Well, first of all, the first book that I want to read this month is Daughter, Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. This is the first book of, obviously it's the first book of the Daughter and Smoke and Bone trilogy, and I've been waiting to read this for a long time. I'm actually gonna read this with Jessie from the book Vagrant. I think that's how you say it. If not, I'm sorry, I think I just butchered it in English. I'm excited to read this with her, and we shall see where it goes, because Katie from Katie-tastic has been raving about it every single book that she has uploaded recently. I still don't know if I'm gonna read this book, because I feel like if I read it, I am going to be dying for the 4th book. So yeah, but nonetheless, I think I'm gonna read Hair of Fire by Sarah J Maas, and this is the 3rd book in the Throne of Glass series. I've been waiting for this book for so long, and I have not read this. So I'm excited. This book is everything to me. Well, this series is everything to me. The next book that I'm planning to read is Landline by Rainbow Rowell. And finally, since now I have it in copy, I can read it. And I am really excited to read it because I love Rainbow Rowell. Yeah. And the other book that I need to get on with is to read Isla the Happily Ever After by Stephanie Perkins. I read Lola and Anna last year, like almost, yeah, I read it last year. I don't know when exactly last year, but I am excited for Isla. A lot of people have mixed feelings about it, but I am excited to read it. So those are all the books that I have for you, and hopefully there will be more in the future. I don't know. I'll tell you guys how I did in November, in my November wrap-up, or in a discussion video, which I still don't know, because I want to make one, but I still don't know which book I want to talk about or rave about. So thank you for watching, and please remember that I have a Twitter, I have Tumblr, I have Goodreads, and I have Instagram. I'll leave my links down below, and I'll see you guys in another video. Bye!
I think I'm gonna read Hair of Fire by Sarah J Maas, and this is the 3rd book in the Throne of Glass series. I've been waiting for this book for so long, and I have not read this, so I'm excited. This book is everything to me. Well,